Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor, which is due unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kadash. All right, double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great Musa that taught me this truth, and Shalom to the Lord's elect, okay, the elect of Israel. And yeah, I wanted to get into this lesson regarding right, the people out here, the heathen, and even you got Israelite foreigners, who obviously for different lands, and they think that they think that they're of the same people of those lands, which they're not, because they're Israelites. Okay, the seed of Israel scattered everywhere, but obviously they grow up in those lands with speaking at the languages, following the customs of the people, right? And what I wanted to speak about, okay, just like a bit of a testimony, if you will, is because I look like a so-called white man, okay, I've been in situations, throughout, the years that I've, you know, come to the truth, okay, found out that I'm an Israelite, and been teaching. Just in my day to day, whether I might be at work or different situations, I'm always in. I say always. There's always been situations where, due to how I look, people, they get comfortable to say mocking things towards Jake. Okay, and they might look at me. They might look at me sideways, or they might observe that I'm not joining in. And I'm just kind of observing them, or I might say something to defend it. You know, and they're looking at me like, what's wrong with him, right? And to defend, who we are. Okay, but I was meditating on it because it happened again recently. Okay, I was talking about, um, I was at um, I was at work, and I seen these these Jakes across the road, not too far. They were having a party, and hey, Jake, man, when we have a party, man, we don't have to have fun. I was listening to the music, you know, and I was saying, they look like they're having a good time, right? And I remember just looking over, and thinking, I said out loud, I said, what are they doing over there? That looks like what is that over there? See, it looks like they're having a party. Is that like a private venue? Or I was just asking some questions. And one of the guys, he straight away, he said, I would never go there because they're black, you know? And the guy himself who said that is pretty much like a Romanian. He's like a mixed Romanian, Russian, whatever I've asked him what his background is. But he's pretty much he's a white Jake, right? Now, he said that because obviously he's grown up thinking a certain way about Jake, right? All throughout the earth, okay, that image of Jake, that image of Judah, okay, that's looked down upon, okay? And I was just kind of meditating on that, how, we're the greatest people on the earth, but the Lord has brought us down to such a level where, you know, we're so hated that you got all these people out here who are just, hating, basically, man. Okay? But here it is, we're the greatest people on the earth. All right? When you're doing well in sports, you got a Jake, if he's scoring the goals in the football, if he's knocking the guys out in the boxing, all of a sudden, whatever country he's doing that for, and all of a sudden he's a hero. But he let him fuck up now, okay? And they're gonna start coming out with the racial slurs, okay? And hey, the Lord has brought us down to, in the eyes of the people in the world, we're at the bottom, okay? Right? What has the saying go? The last hired, the first fired, right? But Esau, on the other hand, which is the devil, okay, that to look like a so-called white man, that's leprosy biblically, okay? You know, to look like that is actually that's a defect, But that's what's looked highly in this world. You got people bleach. You got Jakes bleaching their skin. You got even Asians trying to look more light. Okay, trying to look more white. And that is the turning of things upside down, if you will. All right. Now I wanted to read this in Lamentations, the second chapter, verse 15. It says, "All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem." Now this happened back in our captivity, the Babylonian captivity, but it's happening now. Okay. Saying, "Is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth?" Which is, that's a mocking. All right. These elites, they know who we are, and that's their mock us. Okay. But they're also very interested in us. Okay. Because they're worried about us. All right. Psalms the 83rd chapter goes into the enemies of the Lord and his people. All right. And the Edom is the number one that's listed. So when they went for us in the transatlantic slave trade, that was orchestrated. That was targeted. Okay. All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, "We have swallowed her up. Certainly this is the day that we have looked for. We have found, we have seen it." All right. So the heathen really are glad that we're on that level. We're on that low. We've been brought out to that low level. Okay. And the only reason we're on that, we've been brought down to that level, is because we're paying for our sins that we committed. Okay. Let's get a quick precept on that, right? Because this is what the Lord had to say about it. This is the Lord's punishment. Amos chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth." The Lord is actually only dealing with Israel. So you're thinking, hold on. Now if you don't know, you're coming across this lesson, you're thinking, well, if he's dealing with Israel, then why, and the true Israelites are the so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, Native Americans, okay? And obviously people that go back to that line through the seed, through the fathers. Why are they looked down upon then? Why are they in the state they're in? Why are they in the ghettos? Why are they low socio-economic states in general? Why is that? Where it says, "Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities." It's a punishment. It's a curse. Now, that curse, the curses that are on us, which is why we're in this situation, is actually going to go on our enemies. Right? This is Deuteronomy 30 and 7. "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." All right. And in the kingdom, all right, bear in mind that in the kingdom, man, not only, are we going to that state where we're back in our rightful position as being the greatest on the earth. In fact, let's get that precept, right? But also, we're going to be as gods, okay? Literal, we're going powers, man. Mini most highs. These heathen, it's over, But right now, in our current state, and it's that shows the power of the Lord. The Lord has taken the greatest people that he on the earth that he gave all this talent, all this everything to, all right, all the beauty, everything, and all the strength, all the intelligence, everything that you can have, and given it all to Jake, right? But because we've committed iniquity, brought us down to the lowest level. All right, where now Jacob looked at like, oh, they ain't gonna do nothing of any value. All right, but then at the same time, right, we do excel. We always excel. So what happens is they notice that and they try and put you down. They try and suppress, okay, or they just try and make a quick buck out of you. All right, use you and control you. Okay. It says, Deuteronomy 7 and 6, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power, and the Lord thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth." Now you could say that's a racist comment. And yeah, the Lord is racial, he's racist. He's for out of all the nations that he's created, He's only dealing with one nation, and that's the nation of Israel. The scriptures say the rest of these heathen are as a drop of a bucket to the Lord. Basically inconsequent. They're not important. Okay? The ones that are important are us. Okay? And the same way that we've been put into this position, well, that's gonna turn, and we're gonna go into the highest position, the position that made for us. Remember what Ezra said. It said, if the world was made for our sake, why did the heathen... In fact, let me see if I can find that. Because that's a beautiful scripture. Go to that point. This is, let's see now. Second Ezra chapter 6, verse 54. Let's read it from 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes. So the world was made for Israel's sake. As for the other people, right, the heathen, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. Okay? You imagine that you walking with, let's say you're walking with a bucket of water, right? And as you're walking, you're swaying and you're splashing it a little bit. A little bit of water goes on the floor and evaporates instantly. That's what the Lord thinks. Okay? These heathen. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, and that's what they are, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. And that's only because of the Lord's making. When you read it in Judith, in fact, I'm going to read that. But we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? And Ezra was complaining. And when you read 2 Ezra 7 and 1, and you keep reading, right, which I ain't going to read it in this lesson, okay? I'll just read like one verse to get to the point. Right, 2 Ezra 6, there is also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. That's the kingdom of heaven. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. Right? Treacherous. And one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? Okay. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. We got to go through it. Okay. We got to go through all of this, all right, to get what's owed. And that's what was promised, not owed, but promised. And that's only through Yahweh Shai. It says, because for their sakes I made the world. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Okay, it starts with Adam. Okay. And Adam was, Yahweh Shai came as Adam on the earth. Okay. Right. And you had the Adamites, you had the sons of God. Right. It says, then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful. Okay. And it's just like a back and forth between Ezra's. You can read it. But, and he's kind of complaining. And the Lord's telling him, look, man, you don't really know what's going on. I'm going to tell you what's going on, why I'm doing these things, okay? And it's pretty much the Lord has these reasons, okay? In order to, I believe it was one of the elders, the apostles mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Lord willing, I'm saying the correct thing. The apostles have mentioned it. If I'm not mistaken, it was either High Priest Yaquab or King Marshal. Might have been High Priest Yaquab, but said, or maybe Elder Abba Bivens. I don't. One of the elders from the old school, okay, one of the great men, mentioned, in order for us to understand To appreciate righteousness, we had to understand wickedness, from roughly paraphrased. Okay, the apostles have mentioned it before. So we have to go through this straight gate. We have to go through these different things to truly understand good and evil. Okay, it's like God training. Okay, to be a true judge, and we've got to serve this punishment. But the thing is, right now we're at the end, so we're actually slowly coming up out of this punishment, and slowly, you see these curses that are going upon Esau, and eventually Esau is going to be completely taken down. All right, and all these heathen, including starting with Esau, all these heathen are going to be put into subjection. All right, and that's going to be the beginning of our never-ending empire. Okay, of pure rulership of the dominion over everything. All right, not just the earth, but the scriptures say many mansions. You've got the different planets, galaxies out there. We're going to be everywhere. Okay, imagine that. That's what's promised to us. We're the greatest people on the earth, but the Lord has actually brought us to this low level. Okay, where people actually think that they look at Jake, they look at the image of Jake, and they're just offended, which is funny, because we're made in the image of who? The Heavenly Father and His Son. All right, let's get that. This is Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, that afro texture hair. The Lord was, if you was to look at the spiritual body or the visage of the Lord, it's a so-called black man. Okay? His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. Now, like father, like son, okay, which Yahushua said that. He said, if you have seen me, you've seen the Father. Right? Let's see how Yahushua looked. There's one in Daniel's 10 as well, but I'm going to get this one in Revelation 1, verse 13. Right, this is the Messiah. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, Revelation 1:13, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Okay? So he had woolly texture hair, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. That's burnished bronze, burnished brass. Okay? When you look at that, when you look at the color of that, it's a very dark brown. And his voice as the sound of many waters. So, that image, okay, of Judah, of Jake, that's looked down upon in the world. That's that image of Judah, man. It's looked down upon, okay. And like I said, because of how I look, I look like a so-called white man. I know that I've been in many social situations around these people in the world, where they feel like they can, obviously, if they don't know me that well, if they know me and know what I'm about, or even if they don't know that I'm an Israelite, even if they just kind of know my personality, they don't really kind of say them things, okay? Because what I'm down with comes out in my personality. But if they don't really know me, they'll be comfortable enough to say certain things about Jake. And you think it's just because they ain't, but at the same time, the same people that are saying that, by the way, right? Oh, check this out. Look what the Lord did, right? The same guy that made that comment about the Jakes that were having that party, I think it was the same day, if not the same day, we were working, okay? It's like a laborious job. We were working, and we weren't going to get out on time, okay, because there was so much work to do, and it was overwhelming, all right? And I'm still kind of new, so I'm kind of like training on the job, right? And you know who came to help us? A Jake, okay? A Jake came, and he said, look, man, I can't go. Well, I mean, he had these reasons. He said, I can't go home unless you guys finish this job. So I said, what? I might as well come help you. You know what? He didn't have to do that. He could have sat there and just waited, chilled on his phone or something until we worked and done it and went home. But he came of his own volition and he helped out, man. Okay? And the same guy who was saying what he said about the Jakes, he was smiling at the Jake. He said, oh, it was appreciative. He was saying to him, man, I really appreciate you coming down. So they smile on your face, but behind they're talking about you. Okay, that's the heathen. The heathen hate us. Okay, and like I said, this guy's I believe he's an Israelite. He's a white Jake. He's an Israelite foreigner. He don't know who he is. So he's growing up with a certain mentality. Okay, he's growing up with a mentality where he's looking down on Jake. Okay, he don't know who he is. Okay, so that's just a quick testimony, man. Okay, that's funny. I just thought about that. I said just now in this video. I saw, okay, the Lord actually did that. Okay, and our people, man, we're compassionate people, man. Okay, see, we're being hated, but we're actually compassionate people. If it's always Jake that would be going to defend the heathen, they'll come up to the sign at the camp and they'll say, what about the white man or whatever? They try and, you know, that's the thing about Jake too, man. But the Lord has put us in this position. All right, let's go to Judith. So I said I was going to read it. This is Judith 5. He's getting into it. He's getting into it. Where shall I start from? Right, this is Judas chapter. I'm going to jump around. This is Judas chapter 5, verse 5. Then said Achior, the captain of all the sons of Ammon, let my lord now hear a word from the mouth of thy servant, and I will declare unto thee the truth concerning this people. And he's talking about the Israelites, which dwelleth near thee, and inhabiteth the hill countries, and there shall no lie come out of my mouth, out of the mouth of thy servant. These people are descended of the Chaldeans, and they sojourned there heretofore in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea. For they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia and sojourned there many days. Then their power commanded them to depart from the place where they sojourned, and to go into the land of Canaan, where they dwelt, and were increased with gold and silver and with very much cattle. He's going into, Abraham and all that, right? But when a famine covered all the land of Canaan, they went down into Egypt and sojourned there while they were nourished, and became there a great multitude, Joseph and Jacob and the brothers, so that one could not number their nation. Therefore the king of Egypt rose up against them, and dealt subtilely with them, and brought them low with laboring and brick, and made them slaves. Okay, and this is the same thing today. Then they cried unto their power, and he smote all the land of Egypt with incurable plagues, so the Egyptians cast them out of their sight. And God dried the Red Sea before them, and brought them to the Mount Sinai and Kadesh Barn, and cast forth all that dwelt in the wilderness. So they dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and they destroyed by their strength all of them of Esabon, and passing over Jordan they possessed all the hill country. And they cast forth before them the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Jebusite, and the Sychemite, and all the Girgasites, and they dwelt in that country many days. And whilst, this is the key point, and whilst they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because the power that hateth iniquity was with them. That's Yahweh Shemiel Shai. Alright? So while we were following his commandments, we were doing good. We were being blessed. Right? But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, the blessings and the curses, Deuteronomy 28, the laws, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs, and the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. But now are they returned to their power, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their power, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up and we shall overcome them. Because that's the breach. When we have done wrong against Yahweh Shemiel Shai, the Lord's going to punish us. The defense is gone. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their power be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world. And that's how it is, man. So right now, we're the ones that are a reproach before all the world. Okay? But that's going to get flipped on its head, man. Okay, that's gonna get flipped on its head. All right, and you know, as the name of our Lord is glorified, also our people will be glorified. Okay, and Israel's gonna go back to that beautiful, you know, we're gonna be beautified, man. Okay, right now the heathen, they just, we're in slavery. They're using us, they're looking down on us, downtrodden. But the Lord's gonna put us to the highest. You know, and even in this captivity, man, as much as they beat us down, we're still coming strong. That's a testament to with the Lord's people. Okay. So, hey, this was just a quick lesson and slash testimony, and Lord, it was an edifying lesson in the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai Bashim Lakakadash. With that, man, I'm going to say shalom. Shalom to the Lord's elect.